in a recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
So I will see you guys in about 4 minutes, if that's okay. Okay, everyone, it looks like it's 4 after, so I think that's sufficient Libertarian Standard Time. I did want to take a look through here to see what committee members were here to allow everyone a few moments to introduce themselves. I'm so happy to see so many party members here, and the rest of the time after introduction will be spent devoted to hearing from party members. I do ask everyone to unmute yourself when you're not speaking. My name's Karen Ann Harlos. Most of you do know me, and I am the current National Platform Committee Chair. This is my 3rd term serving in this position. And I would like to allow my committee members a few moments just to speak, and then we shall hear from members. So I'm just going to call on people in the order that I see them in Zoom. And sorry to do this to you, Mark, but you're the first one I see. So you are first on deck to address the members, and I will mute myself so there is no background noise.
I'm happy to start. I'm Mark Brayman. I live in Cazenovia, New York. I am the committee representative from New York State. This is my first time on the committee, but I have enjoyed every minute of it.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. Carolyn?
Oh, hi, I'm Carolyn Clift. I'm the alternate for Alaska, and this is my 2nd time working with Karen Ann Harlos on the platform committee. I was on the platform committee in 2018. So our committee was responsible for the platform as it is now, because we didn't have, they didn't get to do any platform work at the last convention. So I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to work with all of you on the platform.
I thank you so much. And at the end, I will ask if I miss anybody, because I'm having like a really hard time being able to scroll. I believe I have Curry Taylor up next.
Hello, everyone. This is Curry Taylor. I am the LNC appointee to the Platform Committee for this year. And I'm from Dallas, Texas. And I've served in the committee one time prior in 2020, the last cycle. And at that time, I was Texas representative to the Platform Committee. So I'm happy to do it again.
And I'm so glad to have you, Curry, and that you were selected again, because you know, a lot of us did a lot of work in 2020 that didn't get to be heard. Ken Mattis. Ken, if you had started talking, it glitched out on me, so.
Yeah, I did not. I heard recording stopped and then
Yeah.
recording in progress. So it seems like I'm back now. I'm Ken Mattis. I'm the appointee from Illinois. It's my first time on the platform committee. It's my first time doing anything with national. I just started going to the county chapter meetings a year ago, and I'm Illinois' rising star, I suppose. Happy to be here. Happy to be going to the convention in May. Really looking forward to it. Looking forward to getting away from this Illinois weather.
Okay, thank you. I see Clayton, and I'm going to try Casascio? Cashato. I got closer. You got to admit, I'm getting closer, Clayton. So you're up.
If you say so. Hi, all. I'm Clayton Shadow. I'm the Colorado First alternate. I'm sure Mike Seebeck will be around. He's the primary. It's my first time on the National Platform Committee, and happy to learn and improve the platform.
I think this is it. Cashato. Is that correct, Clayton? Try it.
You got it.
It's all lowercase. Okay, please just, I really want to get it right. Next up, I have, one moment here. It looks like John Thompson.
Hi, John Thompson. I'm with Florida, and this is my first term on the National Platform Committee. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And let's see who else. Matt Cholko.
Hey, Matt Chalco. I'm the Virginia representative. I live in Annandale, which is DC suburbs inside the Beltway. This is my fourth consecutive term on the platform committee. And I think I've been about 15, closing in on 15 years in the party. The only thing I'll say is that I'm pretty happy with where our platform is right now. I think it was in decent shape several years ago, and I think it's been improved. I think it was improved a lot in 2016 and 18. So, you know, I think we're in pretty good shape, and I look forward to continuing to hone things.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And I made Omar host. I'm at my sister's home and she just got home to give me her Wi-Fi password. I'm using my phone as a hotspot. So I'm probably going to switch to Wi-Fi, which will be much more stable, which is why I made Omar host. Is there anyone on the committee that I missed? I am flipping through. Omar, I did miss you. If you could introduce yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Ms. Harlos. I thought we started later, so I'm sorry for being late. My name is Omar Okoro. I was appointed to the committee by the LNC, which was a surprise because I thought it was going to be me and John as appointee and alternate. So I'm also from Florida, from South Florida, about an hour south of where John Thompson lives. I've been in the party now going on 10 years. I ran for office in 2014 when I first got involved as state representative. We have constitutional ballot access here in the state of Florida. This is my second term on the platform committee. I was two-time vice chair in the state of Florida. I've been elected to pretty much every position, been involved in all the libertarian things, campaigns, fundraisers, you name it. Traveled across the state, and now my activism is taking me across, state lines. I really enjoy this committee. Ms. Harlos was someone who really inspired me to join this committee, and I think that this is one of the ways that if you want to see change in a party, get involved. This is one of the ways you can do so by our platform is one of the best ways that we, especially candidates, can make a difference. And this is like giving them the tools that they need in order to go out there and spread the message of liberty. So the stronger we make the platform, the stronger the message can be. So I'll leave it at that. And it's nice to meet everybody.
I can't. I know. All right. Thank you so much, Omar. Is there any committee member that I missed? Only because it's really strange on a laptop. And I know I can constantly complain about Zoom, that I can't always see everyone. So please speak up if there is any committee member that I missed. Okay, does not seem so. So now the rest of this time belongs to members of the party. And the way this will work is at the bottom, there is a reactions little tab. And if you hit that, it gives you the ability to raise your hand. But if some reason you can't find it, we're not too formal during these town halls. Be sure to just verbally get my attention and I will put you on the list. But if you can raise your hand, it makes things a little bit more orderly. And what's in order to speak about is pretty much anything. If you have a platform suggestion, if you would like me to let you know the things that have already passed through the committee, I'm more than willing to screen share and show you guys the work that we've done already, because perhaps you would like to comment on that. But this is really member controlled from this point on. We want the members to have their say and control the rest of this town hall. So if you have something to say, please raise your hand or get my attention. I see Dean Rogers.
Yes. Hi, Karen Ann. This is Dean Rogers. I'm in Virginia, and I wanted to make a comment. I guess mostly about the taxation section. That's a favorite topic of mine, and my comment is really based on an overarching idea that I found in talking with people and listening to people of the other parties, and the way that they diss the libertarians frequently is, that we're pie in the sky, and that we don't live in the real world. We don't come up with practical solutions. And I'm not a member of the pragmatist caucus. I'm just, and I think this comment applies to every single plank in the platform. But just to focus it a little bit on taxation, what I would like the committee to do more of is to state an actual solution. So I'm looking at 2.4. Okay, all persons are entitled to keep the fruits of their labor. We call for the repeal of the income tax, abolishment of the Internal Revenue Service, and all federal programs and services not required under the U.S. Constitution. We oppose any legal requirements forcing employees to serve as tax collectors. Okay, so far this is everything that we're against. Now we support any initiative to reduce or abolish any tax. Okay, still we're against any tax, and oppose, once again, we're opposing any increase on any tax for any reason. To the extent possible, we advocate that all public services be funded in a voluntary manner. Well, not all public services can be funded in a voluntary manner. And the government does need money up front. I mean, the most obvious example is national defense. All the equipment, all the people have got to be paid for and in place. The courts are another one, have to be in place. It's not like you pay a fee, when the Mongol hordes come across the border. Everything's got to be paid for and in place in advance. So the government has funding needs. And I think we should, it'll probably take quite a discussion, but determine what form of taxation, what form of revenue generation. Maybe the government should sell stuff. I don't know. But it needs to have a mechanism to generate revenue other than the reactive pay for services as they're rendered. That is not a solution. That is not a way forward. And I think people would be more attracted to the party if it actually offered solutions, if it offered mechanisms that we think, according to our principles, will actually work and that are integrated with the other principles. So that's my suggestion. And Matt Chalco is our Virginia rep, and I would love to participate and help develop some of those ideas on these different planks, because I think I could, but you all can too. And we need to say what we're for and how we would do it, how we would accomplish what it is that we're suggesting. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean. And I also will invite any other platform committee members that wish to give any input. Just an FYI, if you haven't been to any of our meetings, myself as chair, I just view myself as facilitator and not somebody who will be substantively participating in debate. I did want to give you just a little bit of historical context that the phrase "to the extent possible" was added in 2018 to at least partially address some of the very similar concerns that you raised. I realize that might not be sufficient. I just did want to let you know that that phrase, I believe it was proposed by Aaron Starr back in 2018 to address some of those concerns. Is there any committee members that would like to address Dean Rogers' comments?
Sure. This is Matt Chalco here. First, Dean, thanks for coming on, and I see you just responded in chat. This goes for everybody. I put my phone number and email address in chat, so if anybody would like to reach out directly, please do so. Just very generally speaking, on a personal level, I agree with the idea that I would like to see solutions or proposed things that we would propose to do in the platform. I think in years past, pretty well past at this point, our planks were a lot longer and included a little bit more, in some cases a lot more of that kind of stuff, rather than just being a list of things that we're against. It's my sense, and I think it's pretty well borne out by the way that delegates have voted, is that over the last decade or so, the party members have wanted to move away from that kind of a platform, and that's got us to where we are now, where we kind of have a list of little bit more than bullet points of things that we want to do away with. So I don't know how much room there is really right now to move it in the direction that you suggest, Dean. But you're certainly not the only person that feels that way. One last thing I'll say, I think part of the difficulty with putting in solutions or policy, proposing policies, is that it's hard to get libertarians to agree on those things. Get broad enough support for any things that we think government should be doing in order to get those things into the platform. So I think that's kind of a core difficulty with that approach. But yeah, Dean, please do reach out to me directly, and we'll talk further. Thanks.
And one thing I would also add, and I know this isn't always the most popular idea, we used to have something in the past called a program. I've become firmly convinced that some of the, and I noticed Dean had said, he's not a member of the Pragmatist Caucus. I want everyone here to feel that we do not care on the platform committee what caucus you may or may not be a member of. Everyone's opinion is valued and everyone is welcome, no matter what caucus you may or may not find yourself a member of. One thing that I've become convinced of over the years is that we need to find a way that everyone can win to try to stop these internal silly battles. And we used to have something called the program. And what the program was short-term, realistic, baby step goals that we could take towards our ultimate libertopia, however you want to pursue it. And I tend to think in the current culture of the party that it might be a good thing to bring the program back so that you could keep the people that are much more of the ideological purists, if we want to use that word, working on the platform, and the people that are more Cato-minded, the people that are more, what kind of interim solutions can we create? We can put them on program. I'm always trying to look for a way that everyone can win, because when we act like there's a fixed pie, that is only going to cause strife in the party. Would anyone else on the committee like to speak to Dean's comments?
I have something I'll say quickly, Dean. And this is a little bit of I told you so and a little bit of us, pie in the sky, but it is a practical idea. I'm looking at the US debt clock right now. and it says $30 trillion in debt. If that were the opposite, if we had a $30 trillion surplus, we could operate on the endowment system that that universities use, where the returns from investment pay for operations, along with maybe some small user fees. But that's pie in the sky, like I said, but it is an idea.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Ken.
well,
Go ahead, Dean.
I'll speak.
Oh,
that's
Curry,
okay.
Curry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Curry.
Just speak briefly on this topic. A lot of the platform used to be longer, substantially longer. I'd say probably about a factor of 3 or 4 in size. And I guess over the years, like Matt had discussed, it kind of shrank to its current size, and it's more condensed than it used to be. It has basically certain points that we want to hit, and for us to kind of it's difficult to do what you're suggesting, I think, a little bit, because if you open it up to solutions, then it's not necessarily even if this solution is the preferred one or that solution is the preferred one. The question is, how many solutions do we include? Because there's probably 10 or 20 or 30 different solutions that you could choose. So the idea at the present time, and I kind of think it's been this way for about a decade or so, is that the candidates themselves are the ones who are supposed to come up with those solutions for their particular election cycle. So they have, you have a certain, topics of the day which are going through the United States, and this candidate wants to, within the scope of the platform, pick a solution or multiple solutions to an issue, and then be able to present that to the public as as their three points that they're going to campaign on. And as long as it's compatible with the platform, then we leave it open to the candidate to generate what the solutions are. And I think that works okay. It's obviously there's give and take for both of these approaches, but I think that's part of the history.
I thought Karen Ann's suggestion of another document to work, I happen to think that's brilliant. We had a local candidate that ran, and she came to our local meetings, and she spent a fair amount of time just trying to figure out what her platform was going to be and what she should propose to get from where we are to Libertopia. You've got to figure out. You can't just flip a switch and there we are. It's a conversion process, and I get it that's the candidate's job, but perhaps there is a place where we could collect suggestions, proposals. I guess some of them would be pretty radical, and I want to throw one other idea out there, and it's not really platform, but it is. I love that this is the party of principle, but I think one of the most overriding principles is that of personal responsibility. And I would love to see that in a tagline somewhere. And I think that would resonate with the rest of the country. It's the party of principle and personal responsibility. I think it's really the party of principle of personal responsibility. So, because every single principle leads to that. So I plant that seed with you, Karen, and carry about.
And that's a fantastic point, because something I figured out that might resonate with you, Dean, is, sometimes there's a lot of accusations of people of being unprincipled, but the fact is everyone has principles. It's just a matter of whether or not we agree with the principles. And I think sometimes we simplify things a bit too much, as if we're the only people with principles. Our political opponents have principles. We need to, I think, stop thinking of people in such black and white negative terms. That's just something I'm sort of coming to. All right, I had next in line, and of course, anyone who's already spoken could always get in line. Oh, Omar, did you have something to say?
Yeah, real quick. I just wanted to say I thank Dean for what he's saying. I joined this committee without any kind of an agenda. However, I do look at some of the planks and I think to myself, some of them start with we favor and libertarian support. And then there are others, to everybody's point, as to how the platform has changed. There are some planks that read like an angry diary journal entry. And I just think to myself, well, see, there's where we lack some consistency. I think if we had better consistency, that might get our solutions out a little bit better. And as to how we accomplish some of these things that we're trying to accomplish. So I'm glad that you noticed that. And that's something that I try to work towards in the committee when we are suggesting wording and different things of that nature. So that's all I have.
And I do apologize, I did not introduce you properly. Omar is the committee secretary who is doing an awesome job. And unfortunately tonight, our committee vice chair, Ted Brown of Texas, wasn't able to join us, but he also is doing an excellent job. Okay, I had Neil Scott up. Neil, you have the floor.
Neil, you're on mute. Let me see. Let me see if I can unmute him.
Can you hear me now?
There you go, buddy.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, let me start over. My name is Neil Scott. I live in the state of Nevada. And so I was saying in 2002, I ran for the US Congress for the Libertarians. And then this Saturday, we're having our state convention again, where I plan to run for the Senate, US Senate. And my issue actually, my topic pretty much goes back to what Dean was talking about. In 2002, when I ran to abolish the federal income tax. And it seems like back then, the party was more focused on abolishing the federal income tax because we were working with the fair tax people. I don't know what happened, if they're still around. I think they may be, but it seems like we've sort of drifted into all other taxes now. And I think the platform should focus on the federal income tax, getting rid of it, the constitutional amendment to just get rid of the federal income tax. Because that, you're asking for solutions. If you get rid of the federal income tax, and people always say that, well, how do you want to pay for the government? Just say tax everything else. Because if you get rid of the federal income tax, you get rid of the coercive nature of taxes, because then you say, well, if you don't want to pay, say, a sales tax, all you do is save your money. But if you're going to purchase something, of course, there has to be taxes to support the roads, the military and everything. So I just want to say the party should, and I don't know, it may be, but lately I've seen we've kind of drifted. The focus should get back to abolishing the federal income tax with a constitutional amendment. That was my main point for, that I wanted to raise regarding the platform. So thanks for the time. And, that's my thought.
Thank you, Neil. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be at your convention. I am in Florida this weekend. I've been to the Nevada convention several times and I will miss seeing you guys. Is there any committee members that wish to address Mr. Scott?
Matt Chalco here. I think it would be nice to talk about taxation more explicitly in a taxation plank in a platform. So that jumps out at me after listening to those comments. And I will also say that I think in terms of abolition of the income tax, I think that that is a very popular position among libertarians, has like damn near 100% approval. What you replace it with is much more tricky, but there may be some room for talking about elimination of the income tax. And I think that is an issue that we should take up.
Thank you, Matt. I see Mark Brayman's hand is raised as well.
Yes, one of the things that has caught a lot of popular fever right now is anger at the fact that ordinary people who have to pay income tax pay through the nose, whereas people who are able to borrow huge amounts of money from their other assets, which aren't taxed, can avoid it. And one possible solution that has appealed to me for decades is something that I believe was suggested by a libertarian some decades ago, called the APT tax. But it basically, the idea is to tax transactions rather than income, so that you could have, by taxing a very much larger number of transactions that use the Federal Reserve to transfer money, you would be able to have a tax rate way down below 1% and still raise just as much money. Now, that would be controversial in the Libertarian Party because there are so many people who believe that there shouldn't be any funds raised for government at all. But there are some of us, I believe, who might find that appealing because, again, as others have pointed out, if you can avoid the tax by choosing where you're, I don't know, it might be possible.
I got in.
If anyone who's not speaking could mute themselves because they are interrupting the current speaker, I'd really appreciate it. Please continue.
Well, so there might be other ways that could be voluntary if the federal government, was involved only in certain transactions, only tax those transactions that actually make use of the federal government's resources. Taxing stock transfers, things like that, and leaving ordinary people with reasonable incomes alone. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Would anyone else like to address Neil's comments? Omar?
Yeah, Omar. Yeah, I would say that I agree with the previous speaker. For me, I'm really big on economics. I feel like that's where the government has been stealing rights for a long time. And you look at COVID, and it's one of the best examples when they went around and said you can't work if you're not vaccinated or you don't wear a mask or whatever the case may be. I mean, they really struck to the heart of, you make a choice. You want to make a living or do you want to stand on principle? And a lot of people kind of had to fold in order to keep food on the table for, themselves or a family member. So I just think that right there, when we start with the income tax, which is morally wrong to say that the fruits of one's labor is suddenly just has to be given away Joseph Napolitano said this once when he was talking about it. He said, once upon a time, it was just 1%. Oh, don't worry about it. It will never go above a certain amount. Way back in the 1700s or the 1800s, whenever it was proposed and it was rejected. And now look at where we are, to Mark Brayman's point about how some people like myself who are on the lower end of the I'm not making 6 figures a year. I don't have a CPA that can write everything off for me. So yeah, I'm probably paying a higher amount of taxes than I probably should be, or other people that get away with, not paying any taxes or whatever the case may be. We abolish the income tax and then we can start with solutions from there. Also, as far as I understand it, this was a few years ago. Maybe half the people in this country, maybe less than half the people in this country actually file an income tax in any way, shape, or form. So the government is not getting the majority of their funding from income taxes anyways. So things like that are a good selling point, I think, to more people to say, this is why we can get rid of the income tax and the world wouldn't suddenly come to an end. And then, go from there with solutions.
it just before we get too far off of it, this is Matt Chalco again. I noticed that Mark mentioned the transaction tax, and I recall some conversations I had with our first speaker, Dean Rogers, by email in 2020 about a transaction tax as well. So, Dean, if you're still on that boat, you might want to talk to Mark. You all might want to connect directly, because you may have something. You may be on the same page there.
Well, I actually have a paper written about that I've tried to send up the chain there, libertarian wise, but I'd be happy to share with Mark and with you, Matt. If I just have an email address, I'll send it to you. It's only 2 pages, but it explains how a transaction tax might work and be fair and across the board, and cover everything fairly to everyone, and it could even be made progressive if it had to be, but doesn't have to be because it's so low. Anyway, love to share it.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Who I have on deck, just so that everyone is clear, I have Morris Amon, then I have David Stark, and Bridget Rhinesmith had a question in comments that I would like to address and share some information with her. So Morris, you are on deck. You have the floor.
Hello, yes, I'm Morris Amon. I'm from Ohio. I'm a member of the party. I'd like to talk about a proposal I saw on the announcement for this meeting. There was an attachment with proposed platform changes, and I'd like to address, let's say, relatively unglamorous issue that was mentioned there, but still very important. And this proposed platform change would abolish patents. I think that's an amazingly bad idea, and I'm surprised that it comes from the Libertarian Party of all parties. First of all, the government is empowered by the Constitution to have a patent system. The Constitution, Article 1, part of Article 1 would need to be changed, which is quite an undertaking. But putting that aside, when a person or a group of persons or a company put in their energies and their monies into developing a new product or process, they have some property right in it. And I think as libertarians, we should be protecting and promoting property rights. Having said that, I'm an engineer. I'm a retired engineer. I've had a few patents of my own. I know how the system works, and I'll definitely admit that way too many patents are being granted by the US Patent Office and the European Patent Office nowadays. So a change in the system to tighten up the requirements for obtaining this monopoly called a patent definitely should be considered, but abolishing the entire system is not a good idea and not a really libertarian idea, in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe Mark would like to address your comments.
Yes, I too have several patents in my name, as well as a number of copyrights. And it perturbed me frequently to hear people somehow pretend that copyrights are a justifiable form of intellectual property, but patents are not. So I definitely agree with you. There is actually a wing of the Libertarian Party that doesn't even believe in copyright, that doesn't believe in intellectual property at all. And this is a very disturbing trend. The idea that people have such vigorous defense of property rights when it comes to a piece of land or a house, but don't believe that the fruits of someone's labor that come in the form of a book or a novel or a movie or an invention should have any property rights whatsoever. I also agree with you that there should be some tightening up. One of the most important things that I think that we need to establish is that neither copyrights nor patents should be granted to corporations, because corporations don't have intellect. They cannot create intellectual property. Only human brains can create intellectual property. So the names of all inventors and all copyright, all authors and composers should be the only people who can be listed on a copyright or a patent. But again, with that, it does disturb me to see that this has already crept into some state platforms, opposition to patents. I think that that is a little bit of a problem at the state level, not a big problem because states really have no control over patents or copyrights, but it would be an enormous problem. And I guarantee you, I will fight tooth and nail to make sure that no such plank ends up in the national platform.
If I may say something about the ownership of patents, only the names of the inventors go on patents according to current law. But most employers who employ engineers and scientists and the like make them sign an agreement at employment that they will assign their rights to the patent to the corporation. We can argue about that. Most individuals would not have the resources to commercialize or to exploit a patent anyway. But the legality of those assignment agreements can be discussed, but not the basic idea of granting limited exclusivity to an inventor or a group of inventors.
Okay, thank you so much, Morris and Mark. Would anyone else like to address their comments to what Morris had to say? Mark, did you have something further, or was that a legacy hand raise?
Well, it's a tiny bit further, just that I agree that ownership of patents is different from being listed as an author, as an inventor. I believe, however, that copyright law does allow a corporation to be named as an author. I may be wrong about that, and that's one of the things that I do find a little bit perturbing about copyright law. But I agree with you that so far, as far as I know, a corporation can't be listed as an inventor. I do think it might be appropriate to change U.S. law contracts so as to invalidate contracts that are signed assigning too much of an interest in an invention prior to the existence of the invention. I think, but that's a very detailed wrinkle, and I don't think it belongs in the Libertarian platform.
Okay,
Agreed.
thank you. Okay, thank you. Clayton, you had a comment, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Morris. I have a quick question for you. You mentioned that you didn't think that opposing patents was libertarian. Do you understand the position that other libertarians who hold that position? Do you understand why they oppose that?
I think I do, because it grants monopolies.
Okay. Let me try to share just because I didn't hear anyone else speak up. Maybe I missed some details from other people, but some would argue that patents aren't they don't enforce a property right. If you have a piece of land, you can only have one exclusive owner at a given time. You can have shared. You can only have one in general, that's a simple way to think about it. On the other hand, if you have an idea or a process, you can share that with someone else, and there's no conflict. You can't remove someone's knowledge or use of that knowledge from their head. So some libertarians would make the argument that patents aren't property rights at all, and that's why they would say that position is libertarian.
Well, the idea of the patent is not to remove the knowledge from, let's say, competitors' heads. They can develop, the same product, and they would have to wait for the term of the patent to expire, and then they can compete. It doesn't. It's limited exclusivity. It's not forever.
If it was a property right, why should it ever expire?
Because of the weighing problem of monopolies. So, I thought it was a reasonable idea of going all the way back to the founders to have this compromise.
This is Matt Chalco, and I think a big part of the problem is that the system, or people feel like intellectual property laws are abused and weaponized by privileged people and privileged enterprises to the detriment of almost everybody. I think that's a big part of the reason that libertarians, a lot of libertarians, prefer abolition of those laws, because like most things government touches, there's abuse there. In this case, a lot of it's not by abuse, but not by government, but government laws are allowing private entities to do things that we see as unreasonable with those laws.
Well, the laws can be changed. As I said, patents are being granted way too easily. The policy of the Patent Office for a long time has been to almost grant everything and then let the competitors sort it out in court, which of course clogs the court system and makes the lawyers a lot of money. So yes, that can be addressed. I think an invention to be patented should be a real significant major step over known art to be granted, but that's not how it is. People find some tiny little improvement that many who are knowledgeable in the art would consider obvious, and they get a patent. And then if the competitor doesn't like that, well, he can deal with it in the courts with a lawsuit that is going to cost millions of dollars and take years. So that's the bad part, and that can be changed, but not by abolishing the whole idea.
Morris, I would really suggest that you email me your email address, and that way I can alert you when I do believe that this will be coming up because it's on the agenda for future discussion, but I don't think it will be addressed this coming meeting. We have quite a few things before it, and I could try my best to give you notice as to the actual meeting that I would believe it will be addressed, so that you can have some opportunity in public comment, because this town hall is voluntary for all of the committee members. And as you can tell, I'm very thankful to the committee members that were here, but it's not the entire committee. And I do believe that you have the right as a member of the party to have the entire committee hear your comments before we consider this. I have it next, unless I saw Dean Rogers. Did you wish to get back in line, or did you have a comment related to what Morris had to say?
No, I want to introduce a whole new topic, so I need
Okay.
to be in line.
Okay, thank you. David Stark, I had you next.
Oh, great, thanks. And hey, I just want to say thanks for holding this meeting. And I went down through the list. I think Morris that said that was accompanying the invitation. I just went down through the different proposals, and I have a few comments to a number of them. So I'll just walk through them quickly, just so that you hear my thoughts. And start this off. With first of all, I'm from Southwest Pennsylvania, and I want to say I became a libertarian in large part due to the party platform. So thanks to those who've done all the work to get it this far. And among the reasons that the platform appealed to me is that the platform does a nice job of being inclusive and addressing ideas as important for America and all Americans. By comparison with other platforms, it doesn't split Americans into a bunch of demographics and try to address those issues at that level. And in general, the platform best aligns with my values when compared to other platforms. I also like it, by the way, it's shorter than the other platforms that I read. It's a little easier to read. So here are my comments. Proposal PC9, which is new plank 1.4, gender autonomy. This plank is not needed as this issue is already covered in the existing section 1.4, personal relationships, and plank 3.5, rights and discrimination. So I would say contrary to what's listed on the tiny URL, this problem is already addressed, or this issue is already addressed. There's no need to have a breakout specifically for this demographic. Ashley Shade, who was elected in 2021 as a libertarian in Massachusetts, is already an example of the support of libertarians would provide to this demographic. We should be just as supportive of all libertarian candidates. I don't think this wording should be added. Proposal PC11 was securing liberty. The suggested additional words add no value to the plank. Rather, they just present as a snarky comment. So it basically comes across as saying only proper purpose of government should it exist. Well, government does exist, so it's just snarky. So, and I know that kind of extra wording is in a couple other places in the platform, and I would suggest that it should be removed from those other places. There's no need for that snarky comment. Proposal PC4, which is 2.15, intellectual property. Morris just talked about that. I interpreted the wording to mean that if I have a brilliant idea, I can't get it protected, and it should immediately become released to the public for full use by everybody. This sounds like an Atlas Shrugged society, and it is antithetical to libertarian principles. If you look through all of section 2.0 of our current platform, specifically, I'll say the first line of section 2.4, it says, all persons are entitled to keep the fruits of their labor. So again, I don't think that wording should be added to this document. My next one is proposal PC 29. It's a new one, 1.8 police abolition. I'm going to be very direct and purposeful on this. I'm completely dismayed that this proposal even has a sponsor. I would ask any committee members consider voting this for proposal to simply contact their local store owner, hospital administrator, or middle school principal. Ask them if they have a relationship with local law enforcement and how it helps them address concerns about customers, patients, students, and even student families. I believe that if you add this as a plank, you will instantly lose support from more than 80% of Americans. Contrary to the words of a small vocal few, most of us believe that a police force is necessary. Pennsylvania, as an example, had a record year of libertarians voted to office. In Allegheny County, where I'm from, we had at least a half a dozen people elected to the position of constable in our local communities. This plank would effectively prevent any libertarian from running for constable or sheriff and possibly even state attorney. This proposed plank has no place if the Libertarian Party wants to be taken seriously. Again, my recommendation is do not consider adding this plank. I guess I would say along those lines, there may be some things that we can say or should be done for police, perhaps something about training them on better crisis intervention, but outright abolishing it, I'm totally against. So next, PC 2020-16 territorial autonomy. There's already a 3.7. I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but I think this particular set of wording is poorly worded. And while I think that we can support self-determination, it goes too far in addressing representation in the U.S. House of Representatives. This one just needs more work before it can be added and be effective. Next one is PC 19, amend 2.8 marketplace freedom. I disagree with the concept of the new wording. Public companies are chartered and watched over by government to help ensure fair business practices. This may not always work out the way we would like it, but it's way better than letting it be a free-for-all. I think the current wording of the plank is perfect. This is a complicated issue, and adding wording that says that we want to completely eliminate rules that help protect the public from unscrupulous people and businesses is short-sighted and will tend to drive people away from the party. All right, I have two more. PC 17, which is amend 4.0 emissions. This particular section I always liked, but the proposed new wording confuses the plank and adds nothing to the new to the stance of the party. I also believe that the new wording that's suggested really doesn't effectively represent the core foundational principle of libertarians. I believe something more along the lines of we hold that all individuals have the right to exercise sole dominion over their own lives and have the right to live in whatever manner they choose, so long as they do not forcibly interfere with the equal rights of others to live in whatever manner they choose. Would probably be more appropriate there if we were going to add something like that. Last, I have proposal 2020-22, 3.7, self-determination. The current wording already recognizes that the people can alter or abolish the government. Secession fits under the word alter. There is no need to use the word secession. Used in this context, it is unnecessarily antagonistic and completely redundant. I do not understand the benefits comments. How does secession not fit under altering status quo? By the benefits comments, I noticed all those tiny URLs had a problem, solution, and benefits at the top of them. So Omar, I assume you're taking notes. I have this all written down. If you put your email address out there, I can just send these comments to you, just for the record. But anything else that I missed, I guess I'm okay with the other things that were put in there, but thank you for listening. That was a long list.
Well, David, I commend you for being so diligent in reading that document that was attached. Most members don't do that. So I do hope that we will be publishing a list to the National Party as we have all of our March meetings set, so that as you can attend these meetings and participate in public comment. I believe you said you're in Pennsylvania, if I noticed that correctly. If I did get that correctly, I'll be seeing you next week because I'll be coming to your convention. Just a couple things I'd like to, if the committee will indulge me, to address. The language about government, should it exist, where you mentioned it had been in other places and you would like to see it removed. One of the places it appears in is the statement of principles, which is, for all intents and purposes, unamendable. In theory, like in the Dumb and Dumber world, where, you know, the guy with the really pretty girl says, you know, will you ever date me? And she goes, there's a 1 in a million chance. And he goes, oh, so I have a chance. That's kind of the chance of amending the statement of principles. So that will always be in the platform. And I think the desire was to keep things consistent, but I do understand your comments. I just wanted to let you know that that one place probably will never be changed. And the other thing I just wanted to make clear is that this committee graciously agreed to hear the proposals of the 2020 committee, because that committee really kind of got robbed of their work. But that doesn't mean that this committee itself endorses those proposals. So for instance, the police abolition proposal, which seems to be one of the most controversial ones, did not come out of this committee. I don't know, they might pass it, they may agree with it, but I just wanted to make it clear that it didn't come from this committee, that they were graciously agreeing to hear the past work. So now I open the floor to the other committee members, if there's anything that they would like to address, just either raise your hand or jump in. I think it was so much information. They're a bit intimidated. I don't mean
know
that.
it was a download.
Yeah. And I don't mean that like in a, I realize that came out in a way I really didn't intend. I do hope you do come to our future meetings where each of these individual ones will be discussed. The gender autonomy one, your thoughts have been expressed by a transgender member of our committee, Ms. Rachel Nix, who did agree with you on your comments. That proposal will be heard on March 3rd. So if that's something you feel strongly about, I highly encourage you to come to the March 3rd comment, but I wanted to let you know you did have an advocate who is a transgender woman who agrees with your comments. I do not know Miss Ashley Shade's opinion on that. I have reached out to her to encourage her to attend that meeting. I know she is very, very busy with her elected duties. If there's Dean, actually I had Bridget next and then Dean. Bridget had asked about proposals that have already been passed by the committee. I wanted to briefly share a screen. Hold on one moment. Let me pull up the markup document that we have so far. One second, I kind of messed up my Zoom thing here. I want to turn off that share. Okay, I am going to do a share that shows the markup of what has been passed out of this committee so far. So let me go up here, and I'm more than happy to share this document. I believe it is publicly shared on the agenda with any party member, but what we have passed so far is at the end of crime and justice, we passed adding the sentence. Additionally, we support the abolition of qualified immunity so that law enforcement and prosecutors would be held accountable for misconduct that leads to wrongful convictions or other acts of injustice. We agreed to adding to the end of the self-defense plank the word "or firearm accessories," specifically addressing things like bump stocks. We added a new plank 1.10 entitled Space Exploration. We oppose all government restrictions on voluntary peaceful use of outer space. In the free trade and migration plank, it was moved from section 3 to section 1, and we removed the word unreasonably so that it says political freedom and escape from tyranny demand that individuals not be constrained by government instead of not be unreasonably constrained. And I think that might, nope, here, securing liberty. It's kind of a large change. I will just leave it on the screen, but the way it would read now, if our proposal passes, would say, in the United States, constitutional limits on government were intended to prevent the infringement of individual rights by those in power. The only proper purpose of government, should it exist, is the protection of individual rights. The principle of non-initiation of force should guide relationships between governments. That caused the renumbering of some items, the moving, and then in the self-determination plank, we removed the last phrase, and to agree to such new governments as to them shall seem most likely to protect their liberty. We just ended it with abolish. And we added a sentence to the emissions plank that says, we take no position on whether anarchy or limited government may ultimately prove the best safeguard of freedom. That is what has been passed so far by this committee. I want to add a caveat here. that there have been people who have indicated that they may wish to submit a minority report. For members who do not understand what a minority report is, it's an alternative procedure, alternative proposal that is agreed upon by a minimum of 4 members. And the convention floor gets to decide whether it wants to hear the minority proposal or the majority proposal. So this is just where we're at now. I ask people to realize that we are still early in our term. These may be further workshopped. They may be further amended, but this is where we are at now. I am committed as committee chair to keep the party members always informed as to where we are at now. So I do hope that addressed Bridget's question. I want to look in chat just to make sure that did address, and it looks like it did address her question. Bridget, I believe you have my email address. I am going to put it again in chat. I want to make sure you have access to that document so that you could keep track of where we are working on these things. Just for the members' benefit, we will be having another at least 2 more town halls. One more that is like what we're doing tonight, and another one at the convention itself where we are finalizing our report. We will also be sending out a survey to all of the members to offer their input, because we have been known to change our proposals based upon member input, and member input generally helps us decide how we're going to order our proposals, to put the most popular ones first, because sometimes there's limited time, and we would like to put forth first the ones that have the biggest chance of passing. So for those of you who haven't been to conventions in the past, that is kind of the method to our madness. And one last thing to add before we get back to Dean Rogers. This isn't a rule. This isn't a Roberts rule, but my particular philosophy as chair of this committee, again, is not to be an advocate, but to be a facilitator. I definitely have opinions on some of these proposals, but I don't view that as my job. My job is to get the members together to do what it is that they wish to do, whether or not it is what I would wish to do or not. I think that's the job of the presiding officer of these types of committees. Okay, Dean Rogers, you are back up.
Great, thank you. And before I propose this whole new topic, I just want to agree with David. You know, references to government should it exist, and comments that condone anarchy are completely antithetical to a political platform. If this is a party that wants to govern, it shouldn't be saying there should be no government. It shouldn't be saying we endorse anarchy as a method. It just makes me shake my head at the intellectual inconsistency of those kinds of comments in the document. Now, my job, I'm a county executive here in Virginia. And and of course, at the county level, we are just led about by the nose, chasing after federal dollars for this, that, and the other thing. And I want to suggest a very short and simple constitutional amendment that will take a whole lot of debate to sort it out. But I believe it would really put the federal government back in its cage and reduce it to the size that we think it ought to be. And it is simply this: the federal government shall not share its revenue. Now, if you let that sink in, you can see how much reach those few words could have. If the government could only tax what it is purposed to do, and it cannot share its money, all kinds of departments disappear. All kinds of activities go away. And the federal government becomes very tiny. So I offer that as a suggestion in 2.4, that the federal government should not be allowed to share its revenue. It should just use the revenue that it has to fulfill the purposes that are specified in the Constitution. And that's my comment.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. As chair, I'd like to just offer some background information. Again, most of you who know me do know that I'm the quote unquote unofficial party historian. And I'm going to offer a statement that not everyone will agree with. I'm offering the statement just as a objective statement, not a subjective evaluation of it. The party's official position on the issue of government or no government, which it has been its official position since 1974, is agnosticism. Party members, of course, can have very, very strong opinions, and party members do, I think, as we all know, being, if anyone's on social media, they know that party members have very strong opinions. But the party's official position is that it takes no position on whether or not a state should or should not exist. In other words, the party does not take a position for or against the A word, anarchy, which came up earlier today, but we could call it state or no state, whatever words we may use. The party's official position, which is basically unamendable because of the statement of principles, is that it is agnostic. I just wanted to put that out there because I know some party members don't realize that, because I don't think we're very open about that, but it is just a piece of information to throw out there. Just one way or another. I'm not trying to sway anybody in any one way or another. Is there anyone else? Or Dean, did you have something further? I didn't know if your hand, okay. I will lower that. Does anyone else have anything further to add to the discussion at all? Okay, it doesn't look like there would be, so that there is. So we will be adjourning the town hall at 10:15 on Eastern time. We will be having another one, and I am so grateful for all of the party members that took their time. I'm hoping that this proves as a model for the future, that these types of committees, including the bylaws committee, any kind of party committee that isn't by nature a secret party, a secret committee like legal strategy or something like that, would solicit the input of the members. So I thank you all for showing up. I hope you do have my email address. If you would like to be notified when it's anticipated that certain proposals that you care very deeply about might be heard, I will do my best. I can't promise because I'm not perfect, but I will do my best to make sure that you are given proper notice. So thank you everyone for coming out. This recording will be placed on the YouTube channel that's entitled Libertarian Party Historical Preservation Committee, if you wish to review it in the future or share it with any of your friends. So thank you everyone for coming out, and look for your email for announcements of future meetings, or contact me personally for those notices. So thank you everyone. I'm going to close the meeting, and I hope you have an awesome night, everyone. Bye-bye.